This stuff Yerushalmi Eruvin. The article Ozvar edition. We're at the top of Mem Hey No Alf, the beginning of the Gemara, which is to lie down Achin Shutfin, and that is a header. Achin Shutfin Shayu Ochlin Uchlei. In the Vilna, it starts right off with the Gemara itself. Mem Aleph on base Ikar Dira Echon, which is the next line of the article. So Ikar Dira Echoni. Where's your primary dira? Where you sleep or where you eat? So the Rabbi Omar Ispagun Rav Shmuel and Machlekes. Chad Amar once said Memalkom Pitan, the place where they eat. Chad Amar Kom Sheno, the other said place where they sleep. They don't know. We didn't know who said what. Now Shmuel said, different Perushim said in this line. This line's a bit of Medrash Playa, but I think the most simple shot is that we talk about Erev Tchumen. I talk about the issue of above early in the Masechta. Talk about when your Erev Tchumen is above 10 tefachim from the ground. It's a different shus than your shus, whether it's kohen and erev or not kohen erev. So since Shmuel talked about above 10 tefachim being a shvus, obviously the Malkom Pas is what determines where your determines your Malkom Tira. Okay, every more of a Malkom Pita. So it goes by your Malkom Pas. That just a point of reference. That was the sugya was in Parak Gimel, Halacha Gimel, where there was a discussion there about the Malkom Pas, and Shmuel, of course, appeared there, and he said that among other things. Just checking to see if he said anything else, but certainly he said there. So the question was when the trunk was 4 tefachim, and that makes the stuff on top of Shus Yachid. You can't get your Malkom Pas, and clearly we're trying to indicate that Malkom Pas is what determines your Iker Dira. Okay, Masisa Pika Shmuel. Our Mishnah seems to argue Shmuel. Because our Mishnah said that if they sleep at home, so even though they eat by their father's house, we don't go after where they eat, we go after where they sleep. Right? Our Mishnah where they get a pras from Aviyim. What does that mean? So we're going to go to a shot here. Perush. They get specifically a pras, meaning, and the Shas explains, food and beverage. For lomos, not money. We're not talking about that. They get prizes. So he says, I am B'Tesis, I am Tesim Beis, and Mesla, I Yedei, in Cain, Hayu Shufim, Mashichilim, Aviyim, Erev Shabbos. They were the partners which their father prepared for them Shabbos gain. B'lavachi ein tzurich la'arev. So really, you don't have to make an eruv. Kedim ba'abayis shut v'chulei. Mishani chulei elu b'mashein ochlin bilvad. V'ayishem b'sha'asel chilosim ezaklem ka'orchin. When that's the next line of the Gemara. So the Makabali Pras, they take home their food. Really, they eat at home primarily. Well, it says, well, okay, nevertheless, fine, they eat at home, but they're shufim in the fact, in what they are eat. They do eat. So the not shufim what that which they eat. All right, but as it said, as Shmuel explained to me, no, their main food is at home. Their makabel, their pras. And the shutfim, the shutfos which they have is only in the food they actually eat at the father's house when they eat at the father's house. But in other words, they're not actually owners of that food. So that shutfos is a very limited shutfos. It's not an ownership shutfos. It's a partnership of eating together. So therefore, the primary Malkom Pas is at home because the makabel pras at home. On Shabbos, they happen to eat a meal together. So they're shutfim in that meal, but they're not shutfim in all that. In the rest of the food that they eat, the rest of the food they eat separately. So therefore, the Malkom Pas is really individual. That's why I have to make the individual participations in the Eruv. So Gemara says me'ata afilu. Now either you take out this word ein, or you change it to im, or you say in Aramaic, which is also like in. So, but me'ata afilu in, which eruv ba'etzlan. In the case of our Mishnah, we had this chiddush. We said that if the eruv comes, if everybody else comes to the house of the father, they don't have to participate individually. The two sons. So why not? If the malkam passes, they get a pras and they eat in their own houses. Why, where the eruv comes to the father's house, so they don't have to participate individually? It says also son by shemichin boyer. We mentioned yesterday that there's a kula in this case because there is some connection, and therefore they said, okay, then it's as if they're all in this house where they eat together on Shabbos, and we were leaning. Let's consider it as if they're all connected by virtue of their being in that house where they eat on Shabbos and where the Erev is also coming. As the Pnei Moshe explained back in the Mishnah, that there's, okay, it's true. They are divided normally, but since they eat on Shabbos and the bread is coming to this house, so therefore Chazal will need in this specific scenario. Okay, so we're going to ask contradiction. Shmuel Amar, who banav bnei beisim armin kikarecha. Now, it's not explicit, but Reb Chaim explains, and it's obviously based on a good question, that if they all sleep in the same house, even they don't eat in the same house, they only have to participate. They can participate jointly. So ma plige, so they argue. So now this is Yerushalmi Kibshuta points out an interesting point. Normally, when the Yerushalmi wants to ask contradiction from Amora on a different statement of the same Amora, it says Machafa Shitose. And here it says Ma Plige. This is not this lashon normally used. So actually Ma Polig. I can't be where I wrote here. Ma Polig. Says he argued on himself. It's not the normal language of the Yerushalmi. So therefore he wants to say it's really a question of the Mishnah, but it's more easy to assume that Ma Polig here is being used in same way Yerushalmi normally uses the Chafa Shitose, and it's saying it's contradiction Shmuel. And the contradiction is Tam Omar Makam Pita. And before we said you go by the pace of the bread. And here it says go by the fact that they all sleep in the same house. Now it was an interesting answer, and it's really only understood on the basis of the next line. Normally each person has to give their own loaf, an individual role for the Eruv. And here, the two brothers, they make with these two brothers, if they whoever is the brother Beso, even they have different makom pas, as long as they sleep in the same house, each one can give a half a kikar. They don't have to give an entire kikar. And Gemara says, "Saya kamai kaidem Arabi Achia Barabi Zira ma'arvim b'chatzi kikar." So it seems going like that assumption that you can use even half a roll. After thinking about it a moment, I think it's better read as a bitmiya. B'sayik haida marabi yachia b'rabzera b'nar mechatzi kikar is going to opinion that you can be married with half a loaf. With nina filu me'afa seyavi prusa, even if you have a huge amount of bread but it's cut up, a marvin but you can't use it for with tamar achin. You're going to say that you can use it here. He says, yeah, in this specific case, since when the two people are partners and they sleep in the same house, so then they can give one loaf among multiple people. Okay, new issue. The house in which the Erev is located. They, of course, don't have the brothers, but Erev. Rabbi Yaakov Acha Dam Chasim. Yaakov his mother died. So according to Eda means, and therefore he was Osim Talmud Torah, and he couldn't teach us the halacha which we're about to learn. According to Reb Chaim, told him shot, he didn't have time to give bread for the Erev because his mother died Erev Shabbos right before Chashecha. It was distracted, but they put the Erev in his house. And the question is that enough that they put the Erev in his house even though he didn't participate in the actual Erev? So Rabbi Yasel, Rabbi Avo, Tani, you say, according to Korban, said you say the halacha because Yaakov can't say the halacha. According to Reb Chaim, was just saying the halacha about the case without having that issue of being also Talmud Torah. The time they said, Bishama should be so much here. Bishama is aser, even the house in which the bread is placed, they have to put this meir, but still say it's okay. Ravim Nuna Amar. Now, the Pnei Moshe points out they obviously didn't hear the brisa because they heard the brisa. They know it's Machlis Beis Bishama. They discuss it as if it's their independent question. A house in which the Erev is placed does not require anything. That's enough that the Erev is placed there. Rabbi Chizdoi Amar Nasik is Shutaf. He's a partner, just like any other partner, and he has to participate in the Erev. He has to give bas. Armally, Rabbi Nuna said, the words of the rabbis do not give you room to say what you want to say. Now, the Nir has a nice pshat here. He says, what's the lumnish in the machlekes between Rav Chizda and Rabbi Nuna? So he says, the machlekes is like the similar machlekes of Bali, Daf Mem Tes, if Eretz Mishum Kinyan or Mishum Dira. If Eretz Mishum Kinyan, so they're all shufim, and they have to each give the bread, even the Erev in the house in which the Erev is placed. If it's Mishum Dira, so then the house in which the Erev is placed, that became the Dira, so they shouldn't have to give the bread. So Rav Chizdoi says Nasik Shutov, it's like a kinyan, and therefore each person has to give. And Rabbi Nuna says no, they become like they're all living in the same place. And he's going to bring a raya now from this Milain the Rabbanan, Machlokes Amoraim, that Rabbi Yochanan, that we see from both of them. I think more from Rabbi Yochanan, but both of them, that the Arvim become like an individual. And it's not a shutfus. So they become like an individual, not a shutfus. So therefore it must be that everything's from Dira, they're united in their Dira, and therefore the place where the bread is placed does not have to give an Eruv. These Pa'alim Machlokes, Movish Tzida Echad, Akum Tzida Echad Yisrael. Might be a picture in the art school here. There is. So the first picture is they have the Yisraelim over here. Then they have the Moav in the middle. Then you have a Akum over here. The first picture there, the houses are separate. They're distinct. They all open into the Chatzir. In this picture, they're chaloinas between the houses. They open into each other. I think I had this earlier in the Masechta somewhere. Okay, so you have. If they make an Erev through the windows, through the doors, Hakum Osarleim, the Hakum Asers on them, because like it's living like many Israelim living with one non-Jew. It's the regular case where you need to have a Schir Shus, right? It's not the only case which only Schir Shus is a Milslo Shchicha, which of one Jew and one Goy. But here there are three Israelim, so therefore they have to make a have to make a schus to shus. The word afilu was difficult. Reb Chaim changed around the simple pshat in the Gemara because the word afilu is difficult. Because it's not afilu. It says afilu iru derech chaloinus. Even they made erev through chaloinus. Ein akum osalem. Akum doesn't ask them. Because then, since they went through the windows, it all became, they're considered to be one Rishus. And they're now one Israel, one Israel and one Goy, and so therefore they don't need to be do Schir Shus with the Goy. So again, the easiest thing is just to take out the word afilu, and then Rabbi Yochanan, Rav says, even they have the chaloyas among them, since they go derech psachim, that's the normal way of going between the houses, so therefore they need schir shus. It's like it's three Jews with one goy. And Rachel says no, if they have chaloyas between the three of them, even though they also have psachim, right? Nevertheless, and not like the second scenario in the article, which only has openings through the windows. Right? It only has openings through the windows. And the other openings are outside, and into this. They only open into the courtyard through that one house. So it seems that if we say that the word afilu is there, so then it means that even though they could go through the psachim, right? They could go through the psachim. They might through the chalonis. So Nick, I'm not sure they have to have mine, or there's a fatty fat since it's there the chalonis that suffices. But in any event, if they're married their chalonis, that's considered to make them all one unit, one entity, and therefore it's 1-on-1. So let's learn it that way. I came up with that as I was talking, obviously. Even their chalonis among them. Said no. Even their chalonis, still I feel it's not so good. I guess it means even their doorways, afilu, it's like afilu that they're psachim, since iru they're chalonis, maybe that's the pshat. Ein akum. Now the Gemara complicates what's the evidence. In temer keshutafu yesar. If you're going to say there's shutfim, so they remain shutfim, they remain individual entities, even if they're married their chalonis. So therefore it should still remain 3-on-1. It must be if once they make an eruv, and the eruv is not through the chotzer, which would in fact make them the ikar eruv in the chotzer, but rather in the houses themselves, they become one entity, one makom dira, and therefore it's like 1-on-1, and it's a raya that eruv mishum dira, not mishum kinyan, and therefore the house in which the eruv does not have to give bread for the eruv. Okay, new halacha. Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yasser, Shem, Rabbi Yaakov said, "Bnei Mavli shnei mekaymos." The people of the Mavli, they made their shituv in 2 different places. In bli makom, it's because they couldn't fit into one place. Harez mutter, that's okay. But it's because one of them has in mind to take his eruv back on Shabbos. He wants to pull out. Also, that means that they didn't make a true shituv, and therefore it's not a valid shituv. And it's not necessarily. The same thing is true about eruv and shituv, even though it says b'nei mavli, and then eruv. It's both. Whether chetzeres or shivim vos, if it's made in 2 separate places, because they couldn't put it in one place, it's similar to 2 kelim. But it could have put it. We had earlier in the Masech. If it's put in 2 kelim because you couldn't fit on 1 kelim, that's okay. 2 kelim, in order that it to be divisible, because each one later on could come and take their own, so then that's not okay. So and Rabbi Yossi Mekalel, Rabbi Chaim explains very nice. He says, therefore Rabbi Yossi cursed Hadam Udamra. Some of you said, Igul. See it. Look at my role. Igul here means a role. We have it appears elsewhere in this meaning. Igul hu derab. My role is bigger. That's why he's saying that. He's saying, I intend to take it back tomorrow, because it's a bigger role. In other words, then he's Mikala. That person says that because that person is impeding on the validity of the eruv or the shituv. Rabbi Yosef, so the Rabbi Yosef says, yeah, but once actually there was a proper eruv or shituv, so then it's a mitzvah to use it on Shabbos in order to. Once one mitzvah is done, then mitzvah of eruv chatzeros, you should do another mitzvah. So it's not necessarily arguing what it says previously. But obviously he's saying that yes, of course they have to make a proper shituv, a proper eruv, and put it all in one place. But if they do different places, it might be a problem. But once the eruv is made, it can then be used on Shabbos. Should be used on Shabbos for the purpose of a mitzvah. Maybe take the other guy's roles and make hamotzi on it. Or it could be okay, so it's mizaka the eruv to bnei chotzer, so it really was all his to begin with. In any event, the bottom line is that it's saying that even if you use it on Friday night, it doesn't have to be intact for Shabbos. You use it Friday night for the mitzvah of Leil Shabbos, then you could still was a valid eruv because bein hashmashos it all belonged jointly to of them. Talmud Dinon, we learned of them Aaron Bayis Yoshin Darkei Shalom. There's a house in which the eruv has been made in the past. You continue to make the eruv in that house. Subsequently, that's Darkei Shalom. The Amrayim B'Dari Yoshin Masnisa. We're talking about not necessarily the same house if it has new resident. This is where the old resident is still there. he moved out, a new resident came in, all bets are off. Why? Because why? If the old resident's still there, just we continue to make Eruvin in the house, either because he'll get upset if we take it away from him because it seems like we suspect him not to safeguard the Eruv properly, or because until now he didn't have to get bread because it was in his house, and the Ba'ish knows the Eruv doesn't have to get bread, and now you're going to make him get bread. So therefore, you continue to do in the same house. But if it's again same house but new tenants, you don't have to continue in that house. Okay, halacha ches. Halacha ches is going like a mayor who owes that we said a few days ago. We need both an Eruv and a shituv. And you have chamesh chatzeros psuchos. You have 5 yards which open to each other. Psuchos and that also open to a mavli. So this is a picture in the article. All the chatzeros are open to each other, and they're also open to the mavli. So Eruv chatzeros lo yishtat from mavli. If they made Eruv in their chatzeros and not in the mavli, mutar chatzeros also mavli. And mutar in the chatzeros and also in the mavli. Shabbat mavli, they made a shituf in the mavli, and then mutarin kamakan. So this is a very important carbonate. The start from nabim mavli la'achra shiva chatzeros. Right, then mutarin kamakan. So you need both. That's going like right there. Eruv chatzeros start from mavli. They the Eruv chatzeros and shidduch vos. Shalacham chatzev lo Eruv. One of the people the chatzev forgotten in participating in the Eruv. We're trying to come to mutter in both. As Carmen explains, the turn kan time of my ain't my shidduch mokom Eruv. I'm like shidduch mokom Eruv. There's lo shachach toras Eruv minatinakos. So that people should not forget that you need an Eruv. Here, most of the people did make the Eruv. When they forgot, it wasn't the participate. The Torah Eruv not be forgotten, and therefore, in this case, this is the ever case. So when they forgot to participate, the mavli works. Shittim works to cover that guy who forgot to participate in the Eruv chatzeros. That's only a guy from the Chatzar forgot. But Mibnei Mavli, the Lo Yishtatev, there's one of the people in Vos who's not Mishtatev, Torah says, Asur Mavli. They're mutter in the Chatzar, but they're also in the Mavli. Shamavli the Chatzar is Chatzar Batim. Because the Mavli vis-a-vis the Chatzar is like the Chatzar to the Batim. So just like you're not allowed to take out from the house to the Chatzeros without chatzeros, now let the chatzeros to the bottom without shituv and mavos. But so here we say if somebody forgot from the chatzer, the shituv and mavos covers him. So if he forgot from the mavli, the Eruv chatzeros doesn't cover him. So they said it's only one-way street. So a person, most of the people did the Eruv and forgot, and all of them did the shituv. The shituv covers the guy who forgot to participate, or the guys forgot to participate in the Eruv. But vice versa, if they all did the Eruv and one forgot to do with the mavli, then the Eruv chatzeros does not cover him. Okay, that's the end of the Mishnah. Maybe it's the next Amud, so we'll stop here for today.